Hi, this is your host Swapnil Bhartiya, and welcome to another episode of TFR Let's Talk. And today we have with us David Collins, Chief Revenue Officer at Devo. David, it's great to have you on the show.
Great to be here. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah, and today we are going to talk about the general availability of Devo Decision Intelligence Platform. But before we talk about this specific platform, this is the first time you and I are talking to each other. So I would love to know a bit about the company itself. So talk about what do you folks do?
Oh, great. Sure. We're a 5-year-old startup in the decision intelligence space. So effectively what we're doing is we're changing the paradigm for analytic output. Today, it's mostly in the form of a dashboard or charts and graphs, and then somebody tries to figure out how to create business value from that. What we're doing is we've created an artificial intelligence consumption layer on top of data science and data engineering to deliver immediate business value. So we're really solving for what they call the last mile of analytics problem.
Can you just define what do you mean by last mile of analytics?
Yeah.
And what is the actual problem? So let's talk about how you define it, then we'll talk about the problem area.
Yeah. So last mile of analytics refers to the gap between analytic output on one side, and then on the other side, you're trying to get to business value, right? And so that's the whole point of why we're doing all this analytic efforts, and we're spending billions and billions with Amazon and Google and Azure with storing our data, and we've got billions and billions in data scientist salaries. We're trying to get business value. But what we do today is our output is dashboards, and we then give them to a human, and the human has to somehow translate those dashboards into business value. Well, so that means they're doing the insight surfacing, correlating them, synthesizing them, doing the additional analysis, applying the business. What are they trying to achieve? They're applying business context to it so that they can increase gross profit or reduce cost or improve quality. There's a tremendous human cognitive process that is in that gap between analytic output and the actual business value. And if you think about it, it's kind of ridiculous because we've spent billions and billions on one side, right, creating this enormous data and analytic tech stack, and then we give it to a human to take it the last mile to translate that into business value. So that's the last mile of analytics problem. How do we solve for that? Is instead of having a human do all that cognitive processing, Devo's decision intelligence platform, which is a great big AI platform, surfaces the insights automatically, correlates them, synthesizes them using contextual intelligence, uncovers opportunities to improve against KPIs and the metrics that you've assigned to that use case, and then actually forms in a natural language a recommendation as to what you should do. So, and as an example, if I'm a internet service provider, cable company, and I log in and it says, "Good morning, David. In your territory, we've identified 1,135 customers at high risk of churn. If you offer them a $100 content credit, we predict 425 will renew at an average value of $99 a month." That's our analytic output. That's how we solve for that last mile, because now I've logged in, I have a business recommendation, and I can do something with it, right? Right away, I can make a business decision to create value. And so it really, reduces the time in order to get business value created for the enterprise.
Excellent. Thanks for explaining that also in such detail, and also sharing that example which made it even easier. Now, since you folks are announcing this platform today, let's talk a bit about the platform itself.
Okay. So it's the platform is an artificial intelligence platform, and we've got 7 patents so far, another 5 pending, in an area of artificial intelligence called contextual intelligence. So what contextual intelligence allows us to do is it allows us to use CPU power and the artificial intelligence to do all the correlation and the synthesizing of all and surfacing of all the insights out of the machine learning models and the data that people are currently running dashboards on. So that platform is what allows us to translate into into a very natural language. Hey, we've found the following problems, and oh, by the way, here's the following solutions that we recommend. And so that platform, again, it's some real cutting edge stuff, is delivering a here's your next step. Here's your problem, but here's what you should do about it as well.
Who are you targeting with this specific platform?
Yeah, great question. So actually, maybe I can answer that in two different ways. As a company, we're predominantly working with Fortune 1000, Global 2000 type of companies. Really big problems, right? That have a tremendous amount of attention and focus because they've realized that there's got to be business value that we can drive from our data. Decision intelligence itself lends itself to repetitive decisions, right? So every day I have to sit down and figure out how to keep customers, or I have to figure out what to market to customers, or I have to figure out what I need to buy in my supply chain, or how I price products in my stores. So we've got groups of people in the enterprise, and that's their sole, there's maybe 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 100 people that make a very similar type of decision on a day in and day out basis. And so that's ideal for decision intelligence because the AI works on that particular use case and is able to continually get better and smarter at delivering a rock solid recommendation across that that particular use case. So it's not, decision intelligence doesn't replace dashboards to do storytelling or to do reporting. That's not what it does. It's really about helping make a major impact in key areas where users and analysts are required to make decisions all the time that directly affect business value.
There are, other AI solutions that not essentially the same thing, but similar. So can you also talk about, how are you planning to differentiate yourself? The fact is, you and I know better that there's always a user base for product, so you will have your own user base no matter what. But what I do want to understand is that if you can, either technologically, what advantages that you do have over other players or the traditional business intelligence where users can clearly say, hey, this is the business value I would get if I go with Devo's platform.
Yeah, exactly. So there's really the world breaks down into almost three different pieces right now. And the first piece and the biggest piece obviously is the traditional business intelligence space, right? The visualization tools like the Looker and the Tableau and the Qlik and the Power BI. That's an $18 billion annual spend a year, and that's traditionally what most people use today for analytic output, right? So and that's just going to give you a dashboard. And we discussed, we've moved way beyond that. We have really no interest in dashboards. We want to deliver a recommendation that allows somebody to generate business value. So that's how we differentiate ourselves from the traditional players. Now, there is another group that's kind of come on board here recently called augmented intelligence. And what augmented intelligence is basically you add AI to BI, right? So I add a little artificial intelligence to my business intelligence, and it allows me to surface the insights for the user. Now, that is an improvement over traditional business intelligence. But now the user, they have the insights. They don't know what to do with them, right? They're not contextualized. They're not actionable. There's nothing for them to do with it. So while augmented intelligence is a leap forward over business intelligence, it still has a long way to go to get to decision intelligence and what we do. Whereas we're taking that analytic output and the output from the models and delivering a business recommendation that can be put into place right away. So that's really, probably the best way to describe it. You have your traditional business intelligence, then you got this new wave, ThoughtSpot and Sisu and Pyramid Analytics and people like that are doing augmented intelligence, where they're surfacing the insights for people. And then you have decision intelligence, where we take those insights and we run with them until we get to the point from that we're delivering to the end user immediate business value.
Can you also share, either use cases where, DI is ideal solution, and also, of course, you may or may not be able to name, if you can also name some not customers, but if you do see any exciting use cases that are there. So yeah.
Yeah. So it's the one that's super hot right now is obviously supply chain, right? And that's upstream and downstream supply chain, because obviously there's been so much disruption in the last 3 years, and it's not getting any better. And that disruption means that in the past you might have planners they kind of know what to do. Their intuition and their experience carries them through, and they weren't relying upon data-driven type of results. Well, now you fast forward to where we are today. Their intuition and their experience has never prepared them for a pandemic, right? So there is certainly changes afoot. Retail has been upended, right? It's so different. And so now that the merchandisers and the people that were responsible for inventory assortment and whatnot, they don't have that experience to go back on that's applicable anymore. What do I keep in my stores? Because 50% of what I sell is now on the internet, and it goes through a distribution center. So so much has changed, and what we're able to come in to do and deliver in these kind of use cases is data-driven recommendations that are, the logic is unassailable, and it doesn't have human bias associated with it. It doesn't require 20 years experience. It doesn't require a crystal ball. This is what you should do. This is how you need to order. This is where you need to send it, based upon what the data is showing us today. So it's a shift, if you will, in terms of mindset, and it's a lot of it is simply because of the disruptions that we've had in our economy, and that have caused so many. Look, my sneaking suspicion is that the data-driven decision intelligence was always going to be better than the 15 or 20-year person who's been doing this. But with all the disruption we've had in the space, now it's imperative that they find some other means to be able to do supply chain planning, right? To be able to do pricing for products in stores, to be able to. So we see it in. It's really interesting. We see it in manufacturing, financial services, insurance, logistics, which is another area that's been disrupted quite a bit. So we're getting input from. We're getting customers coming to us from a number of different verticals, and it's not just North America. I mean, I get up every morning very, very early and start my day in Asia Pac, and I had a call this morning with somebody from Indonesia. It's a worldwide phenomenon, and we can solve for that regardless of the region that you're in. All you need is the data and the data science.
I mean, we are in a totally different phase of economy. There are potential of recession. Feds are also thinking of raising the taxes. So market is also going through a very, very uncertain time. What role do you think DI will play in helping, because companies are worried about the cost, they are worried about inflation. So can you talk about the cost factor, how it helps, if it helps there as well?
Yeah, so for a data scientist, change in constraints or parameters is just part of the process, right? There's not an emotional attachment to the data or what's going on. So when we get into the environments that we're getting into right now, people have to make hard decisions. We're going to go through an earnings season here shortly that I think everybody's going to be pretty disappointed in the earnings, and the cost of capital has increased dramatically. So we have one use case that speaks to this. They're in the capital business, and they need a decision intelligence platform to tell them what assets to retain, which ones to sell, and the ones they sell, who should we sell them to, and at what price should we sell them to, right? And so it speaks exactly to where they are in the marketplace today. It's like, look, we need to make sure we maintain liquidity. And in order for us to do that, we need a much more intelligent. Right now, they're doing it with dashboards and spreadsheets, and there's a little bit of a haphazardness associated with this. And we're talking billions and billions of dollars worth of assets in major financial services organizations. But then, it's a question of, look, is there a more intelligent way? Can we apply artificial intelligence and get a decision intelligence platform that actually guides us to be able to make a higher quality decision. And the computer doesn't care how many decisions it needs to make a day, right? So if in the past as a human I was making one a day, well, if I'm being surfaced 10 recommendations, I can make 10 a day now, right? So I can also increase the volume, which is something that we saw initially because there was a human labor shortage, a subject matter expert shortage. That's still going on, but now the paradigm's shifted, so it's gotten even harder. So it's really quite timely in the marketplace right now that people start rethinking how they're going to drive business value because they need it immediately. There's no, we've lost those cushy years where we could, maybe execute sort of okay and still get by with great results. Everybody now needs to really pay attention to their execution.
Right. And you actually brought up the next question that I was going to ask, which is talent shortage. This is not a problem that will be resolved. Actually, it is going to get worse and worse as more and more folks are moving toward this. So can you also talk about, as you're talking about, it's not necessarily removing the human element, but also actually automating. So how it also kind of helps organization with that problem also, that even if there is a short, and also getting data scientists is even harder than, regular engineers. So talk about, how does that help with that problem also?
Yeah, it's a decision intelligence greatly increases the efficiency of your business users and analysts, and that's critical in this day and age because normally you don't have enough of them, and with the Great Resignation and everything else that's going on, this has been a challenge. So if I normally am operating with 50 planners in my supply chain group, I might have been running with 40 for the last, 18 months. We have a customer that's in the logistics space. Typically they had 40 people show up to a shift. Well, now they have to figure out how to do it with 22 because that's all to show up, right? 22, 20, they don't know day to day. Today could be 30, tomorrow could be 20. So how do you do that? How do you run a business that's like logistics, which is so all about execution? And how do you do that given the variables that you're dealing with your workforce? So it's clearly one of those areas where increasing the efficiency of the staff that you have, lowering the dependency on their experience and their intuition, which is critical, right? So if now I have a decision intelligence platform and I put a really good analyst in front of it, they don't have to have been doing this for 15 or 20 years. They just have to be smart. And then they exercise, they make the platform work for them to be able to deliver a great result for their enterprise.
You just made this announcement, so it's too early to talk about that. But if you can share, what are the things that are in the kind of pipeline, or what are the things that you folks are working on that we should all be excited about?
Yeah. So where do we go from here? So in this DEWA 1.0 is a major milestone in that we delivered something we called Adaptation Studio, which Adaptation Studio allows the customer to start customizing their screens and their UI and that experience. We need to take that to another level, and we'll continue to grow that. But we're also going to deliver some additional AI functionality that don't want to give it all away, but actually makes it learns from every recommendation ever generated, every action that the analyst made with the system to be able to effectively train a model within our platform to be able to increase accuracy even to a higher level. So, as you add customers, and we've been adding customers at a pretty good clip, they're the best source of inspiration, right? They come to you and go, wow, this is really cool, but would it be even cooler if it could do this? So we spent years kind of in our ivory tower thinking, because nobody was thinking this way, right? I mean, who came up with this stuff, right? But once you start putting it out to customers get pragmatic and they get practical. And they say, but this would be great if it could do this. And so now, our inspiration is coming from our our engagements with our customers, and they're delivering, effectively helping us write the roadmap going forward.
What is the importance of partnership for a Devo? And if you have any partnership or you do plan, so what is the ecosystem looks like around Devo?
That's a great question. We're a software company, but when you implement something like this, now whatever the customer has done for data engineering and data science, we reuse. We don't require them to re-engineer that at all. But however, in today's world, every dashboard has a model. Well, we've got one decision intelligence platform for one of our customers that has 18 models. All right, very sophisticated stuff. And we need partners to be able to help our customers with their data science requirements, right? So we're not going to scale up this great big professional services organization when you have all these consulting companies out there that are really good at what they do. So we need partners that can help us implement. And it's not an everyday type of partner. Everybody that we're selling to is a global 2,000 multi-billion-dollar entity. So it's consultants that have the chops in the data science space, but also know how to engage with very, very large corporations on really high value projects.
David, thank you so much for taking time out today and not only talk about the company, the platform, but also the larger problem that is there, especially with this changing economy, shortage of skills, and the use cases are growing. So thanks for sharing all those insights there. And I would love to have you back on the show. Thank you.
No, thank you. I appreciate it. I'm the one who's in debt. I really enjoyed the conversation. Great questions. I love it when you make me think, make me work, and it was a great conversation. So I'd love to come back.